Hello and welcome to this Astranti video where we'll be going through the survey results that we received from students who sat the February 2022 exam sitting for Frinta, and this is the final pre-scene sitting for this pre-scene company, and the next MCS case study exam will be on a new pre-scene company. So consider using any information you find here useful in this video that will help you prepare for the next exam. So starting with the first set of survey results, which is the exam difficulty. The majority of students for the sitting did find the exam to be quite difficult. Not extremely difficult, but they did find it to be moderately more difficult than they expected. You might think this is surprising because actually the past couple of sittings it's been about as expected. There's been a fairly even split, or more students have found it to be as expected or easier even. The issue with this particular sitting is that the questions, according to students, were quite confusing. One student actually said that it was like trying to decipher a riddle. It might be worth checking CIMA's past papers, just doing mocks from various providers, including our own, just to try and get used to different ways in which questions can be asked, particularly with CIMA's past papers, so that you can see how CIMA's examiners word the questions as well. We try our best to match the wording, but at the end of the day, the examiners are going to have a particular style, and sometimes that style can throw students off in the exam. So really what this means is that you need to practice as many mocks as possible, because the more mocks you practice, the more familiar you are with the style and substance of a question. And that way then you spend less time in the exam potentially scratching your head over trying to decipher what that question is asking you to do. However, some variants can just be needlessly confusing, and that seems to be broadly what has happened here. It's not often we've seen student responses so collectively say that the questions were just a bit confusing. Now, having said about the mocks, okay, what do students wish they had done more of? And time again, I've yet to see a survey where mock exams aren't the primary, well actually maybe there was one, but 9 times out of 10, mock exam practice is the thing that students wish they had done more of. And in this exam in particular, a lot of students did say this because there was timing issues, there was trying to decipher questions, there was applying theoretical knowledge in some cases. So all in all, this is why learning the theory and learning mock exams is important, because in learning those two things, you not only can apply theory when requested, so if you get a question asking about how to use capital, or not how to use, but the implications of using capital appraisal methods. If you get questions on F2 topics, you need to know the theory and the financial standards in order to answer the question, because if you don't, you're not going to get high marks. So that's why theory revision is so high, but also why mocks are so high, because you've got to learn how to apply that information in an exam scenario. You can't just regurgitate it and hope to get marks just by writing out parroted the definition of a standard. You need to actually apply it to the pre-scene company, and that's where the mock practice comes in, applying theory to practice. And then the third one, answer planning. This is more so that some students really just felt that going into this exam, they didn't plan their questions adequately well enough, and as a result, they suffered. Due to possible time management issues as a result, or that the answers weren't as well structured. Given that, then, if they wish they'd done more exams, mock exams, what about what they would have done less of? Well, we've seen this plenty of times before. The industry analysis comes up very frequently as the thing that students wish they'd done less of. Now, the reason for this is that the industry examples, or the industry research, gives you context for the environment that the pre-scene company exists within, but it doesn't give you the theoretical knowledge or the pre-scene knowledge that you will need to actually answer exam questions. So what is the point of the industry analysis? Well, the point is that it's desirable by the examiner that you are able to integrate industry examples into your answers to justify why you've made a particular point. If you can integrate an example which justifies through precedent of another company doing it why what you're suggesting is a good idea, that immediately makes your answer that much more believable and also easier to award marks. Then as for the pre-scene, well, you can't pass the exam without knowing what the pre-scene company is all about, but you also shouldn't be spending the majority of your revision time reading it. You need to look at the analysis, yes, but you crucially need to be applying that analysis to mock scenarios, because that's what you'll be doing in the actual exam. You'll be getting unseen material in the exam that will not have been mentioned in the pre-scene in any way. So all you need is a good understanding of the company, remember some crucial details from the pre-scene so that you don't need to go looking for it in the exam, wasting precious time. And then lastly, interestingly, we have a tie between revision of theory and typing speed. What I'll say about this particular point is that some students, because this public survey, some students may have had no issue with the theory because they already were very comfortable with it, and that's what they would have spent less time on. Does that mean you shouldn't spend less time on revision theory? That depends on you and your comfort with the actual theory for this sitting, for this exam in general. If you are not confident on theory, then you should be spending more time revising it and being comfortable with all the standards, all the models, anything that you think might be relevant or need to be applied in an exam. And you can do that, you can practice knowing what kind of things you need to learn by doing exam questions, looking at past papers, and trying to figure out what kind of patterns come up from past exams. So what tips would I give to future students? Sit mock exams, that's a given. There's a reason why so many students say they wish they had done more, and the reason is mock exams give you the opportunity to practice applying theory to exam scenarios. Time management is a big one. For MCS, you have 45 minutes per task, and you do not have the ability to go back to a previous task or spend more time on a particular task. You have 45 minutes flat, question 1, question 2, 3, and 4. So you got to manage your time. Don't spend more time on one question when you could gain marks by moving on to the next subtask rather than just trying to get that perfect answer, because you're probably not going to get many more marks anyway at that point. So manage your time carefully. Look at past papers. This is something the student recommended because the physical structure of CIMA's past papers is very similar to what you'll see in the exam. Not to mention you get an idea of the format. And if you're a gateway student, this is your first CIMA exam sitting, then yes, the past papers will be a very good way for you to learn what the exams actually look like. So you don't go into the exam feeling a bit lost, like, oh, what do all these buttons do, this sort of layout, and get a little bit scared from that. Review theory as well, naturally, as I've said before, very important part of your revision. And then lastly, answer questions with a, if it were your own business, what would you do? If you can answer that, you're in the right mindset, because for this exam, remember, you are an employee at the company, and so you're expected to give advice that would benefit that company. Have that in mind when you're answering your exam questions, when you're doing your mocks. If it were your own business, what would you do? And maybe that will help give you some good ideas and help you structure your answer in a way that makes logical and strategic sense. That's the end of this survey review for the MCS February 2022 exam. I wish you all the best in future exams, and I hope to see you in another Astranti video.